Hi guys, my name's Doug. Welcome to my messy garage. In today's video we're going to continue the rebuild or repair of my lower unit for my Force 120 horse outboard. In the last two videos we disassembled it, looked it over, and ordered some parts. Now it's time to get things put back together. Thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully you enjoy this one. Let me tilt this back a little bit, make sure that we've got the top end all cleaned up. I still see a few filings there that we need to eliminate. Because we sure don't want those ending up in the pinion gear. And we got all sorts of grindies down in there now. We've done a little bit of rinsing. One problem with using the drill and the easy out method to get this shaft extracted is you end up with all these little filings that want to get down into areas where filings are really not a good idea. I am able to reach my hand all the way into the absolute nose. In where the shift fork is. Okay, what I'm going to use is a soft shop rag. It'll kind of act like Velcro to a certain degree to all of the debris that's inside of there. Get a good amount of moisture in there, and kind of see it's not really grabbing any debris, which is good, but it is getting some dirt. Everything looks nice and clean on the top end. That's good. No obvious damage. So basically, I think what we can say is that we've got the disassembly done, and we've got the cleaning done. Now it's time to start getting this thing ready to go back together again. For that, I'm going to have to do a little bit of reading in the manual, and also my camera's overheating again, so I'm going to have to pause here. I'll bring you guys back when I'm ready to start doing some reassembly. I've gone through the book and see what's involved in doing the reassembly. Generally speaking, pretty straightforward. We've got some parts here that we need to install. Everything looks pretty good. We've got the carrier. We've got the spool assembly. This is the reverse gear. Our shift assembly. All that needs to be cleaned up. We need new seals installed, because basically I think this whole issue was caused by bad seals. In the end of the spool piece, this goes in like that. We've got an O-ring here. We've got two lip seals that are there. I guess we should take a look at the seal kit that I got and make sure that that is the right. Make sure we got the right parts before we start ripping things apart. In the package, we've got those two shaft seals there. Seals for up in the top assembly. We have a shift boot designed to go down around the shifting rod. And we've got a number of different O-rings. So starting off, we want to extract this O-ring out of here. Give everything a good wipe down. Get rid of any grindies that we have. This gray that's on here is exhaust residue, not a big deal. That is outside of the gearbox, the sealed portion of the gearbox. And on these seals, you'll notice that there's a spring that kind of holds the lip together. Now we need to get these the old seals out. We've got our big monster pry bar here. Let's see if that will. I think we need to grab that spool in the vise so that we got something to pry against. Give this a try prying on this. That's one. And there's the second one. According to the manual, it says that we should install this with the metal spring towards the inside of the gearbox. It says to use a special installation tool, which of course I don't have. But it appears that once I get this started, I should be able to tap it down in place with an appropriate sized deep socket. That looks to be about the perfect size. Use a dead blow hammer and just there we are, we're seated. We hit a little snag. Unfortunately, the nice shiny new seals that came with the seal kit are too big to go in. They're almost a 1/16 of an inch bigger. You know, my initial holding it up looked like everything was okay. Pulled the seals out. I've done my best to straighten this original seal back out. The inner seal I was able to replace. It did come with the kit, but for whatever reason this outer seal didn't come with the kit. My plan is I'm going to reassemble this, put some triple guard grease. I know that's a OMC thing, not a Mercury or Force outboards thing, but I'm going to put some triple guard grease in the seals here. When it goes back together, I will pressure test the lower unit. I have ordered another seal kit, supposedly this one, the 1203. That is supposedly the kit that I need for this setup, but for whatever reason this did not work out. Hopefully I'll get the right seal in the next kit. Worst case scenario, the inner seal, while it is slightly different than this outer seal, it's the same size and it would fit in there quite nicely if I had to. So we will, worst case, we could put a new outer or inner seal in this outer location. Would prefer not to do that, of course. And of course we got a bunch of schmeggies all over everything here. I really don't want that in the bearings. Okay. Well, not perfect, but I think that'll work. Hopefully it'll get us through till the parts show up. I really would like to get the pontoon boat back in the water. Okay, in the manual it says that we need to have the, when we're reassembling things, we need to have the little fork that engages in the shift dog needs to be in the up position. My initial thoughts were to clamp onto this with a pair of vice grips. That'll probably work. I'll just wrap a little bit of tape around there so that the vice grips are gripping on the tape instead of chewing up the shaft. Sooner or later I'll get the layout of my nice new toolbox all figured out, so I don't have to look through every drawer to find tools. The vice grips are on there, clamping on the tape, holding that in the up position. I don't know how well that's showing up in the camera, but you can see that there's kind of a fork in the end of that shifter fork there, and that's what we need to catch with the dog that's on the end of the prop shaft. Everything looks reasonably decent on the forward gear. I would like to put a little bit of lubricant on that though. Part bottle gear oil that I got kicking around, that'll do just to give a little bit of pre-lube for the bearings. Next item we need, throw a little bit of lubey on that, and now the pinion gear goes in. Now we are ready to install the new drive shaft. However, we have a little problem. The manual states very, very clearly that you have to install the bearing and the outer race as a matched set. And we didn't get the outer race for this bearing. I don't know how easy this is going to be to get off of here. Hopefully it comes fairly easily. Punch, and we'll see if we can tap this off. Well, unfortunately, that is not coming off of there. I agree, in an ideal world, we should be installing things the way they say to do them. But unfortunately, we've got to deal with the parts we've got. Again, put a little bit of lube on the bearing. Slide the race in place. Now we slide this down in. Give it a little tweak so that it grabs the pinion. Now we have the pinion nut and the washer. On here we have a smooth side and the shim washer, and we have a rough side. And it says that the smooth side is supposed to go against the washer. It also says that we need to put a little bit of Loctite on there. Unfortunately, I don't have a tool that'll fit a spline and adapt to a socket wrench. But I do happen to have a chunk of shafting with a good spline on it that I can drop in here and put a wrench on and see if we can get some kind of extension. I know a crescent wrench is not by any means the correct way to do this. However, we've only got so much to work with. Well, again, this is like massively cheesy. I really don't like it. I took a grinder, ground the corners off the crescent wrench, fit it into a extension handle, get her good and snug. And that gives us some leverage. Now, the manual says we need to get this up to 85 foot-pounds of torque. So let me get my nice big long torque wrench. It should fit in there instead of the breaker bar, and we'll see how close we are. Not completely hick grade, but partway there. Click. There we go. That one's torqued. This is the thrust washer. The manual says that it is supposed to be held in place by a little bit of grease all the way in the center of the shift dogs in the forward gear. And I wish I had shown that to the camera prior to putting the forward gear in, unfortunately. Now we need a little bit of grease to hold this in place. So for grease, what I'm going to use is the Johnson Evinrude BRP triple guard grease. Yeah, I know this is for working on Johnson and Evinrude stuff, but it'll also work for a Mercury Force. So this is the main propeller drive shaft. You can kind of see the shift dog here. This is supposed to be up like this, and this engages reverse gear or forward gear. The little fork that I showed earlier down in the front engages with this little piece here, and that's what pulls it forward and back when you're engaging the controls. It says put a little bit of grease on here to kind of glue it in place so that it doesn't fall out while installing it. And it also says in the manual that you need to make sure that the opening stays on the bottom when you're pushing the shaft in place, otherwise it will fall out. Okay, it appears to be locked in place. Lifting on the shifter and twisting the shaft here definitely seems to do stuff. So that's a good sign. Get this top bearing down in place. Well, the camera overheated again. So we've got the spool shoved in. We've got our lock ring. You'll notice there's a little triangular tab here at the bottom. Some lock tabs. These are supposed to be bent in. This one gets bent out to hold the big nut in place. I'm sure there is a special tool for reinstalling this retaining ring. Unfortunately, I don't have one. So we'll have to make do with what we have. That's got the retaining ring locked in place. Next we've got the retaining ring that goes around the top. Unfortunately, I broke the original retaining ring when I was taking things apart, but was able to find this on eBay for, I don't know, $7 or $8, not too terribly outrageous. And there is a special tool that you're supposed to use to install it. However, I don't have that tool. I've skipped ahead a little bit here. Got a little bit more reassembly done. I had to manufacture this tool. It's a piece of 1.5 inch tubing with some notches cut in the end. This is the broken retaining nut. I replaced it with a new one, but you can see how this fits in. Goes down over the shaft, and I torqued the retainer into 90 foot-pounds as is indicated in the manual. Now we're on to the seal assembly that goes on the top. This goes down over here. We've got our hole for the shifter rod seal, and then the main input. This is the bottom to the water pump assembly. And I've popped the two seals out of here, replaced the outer O-ring, and now we've got a couple seals that need to go in. And the spring goes in, or at least that's how it was installed when I removed it. It appears to be seated in there good. While we've got it apart, I'm going to put a little bit of the triple layer grease in, just because it's easier to get at the seal when you've got access. So next thing we've got to install is the seal that goes down over the shifter shaft, and again it just pops in. Might have to give it a little tap with the deadbolt. Here we are seated. Again, we'll give it a little shot of triple guard. Do that in front of the camera so you can see me squeezing it in. And now we've got one more seal that we need to install here. And this one goes in so the spring is facing out. And again, we will put some triple guard on it. So we have the O-ring here, and we have an O-ring here that I don't have a replacement for. The only O-ring we have left is this one, and that does not fit. Looks like it was probably one for a slightly different style of this mounting plate. However, there is definitely evidence of a little bit of RTV around here. So I think I am going to likewise put some RTV on there and seal everything up properly. Before we put the shifter shaft in, we need to get the masking tape off of here. We're done with using the vice grips. Everything is lined up inside the way it is supposed to be. The black at the tip here is just a little bit of residue. I'm going to guess that this motor got a fresh coat of paint at one point. The manual says to tighten this down till it bottoms out, and bring it back 4 turns. Half, 1, half, 2, half, 3, half, 4. Now, one advantage of the way this system works on this motor, this is sitting in a little window kind of between the body of the motor, and we will be able to get at that, pull the cotter pin out of there and adjust it up and down if it doesn't shift quite right once we have everything all put together. A little bit of silicone. Put it on there, I'll smooth it out with my finger and we'll leave it sit for a minute or two to tack up a little bit. Okay, we'll give this 10 minutes or so and should be tacked up enough. The reason we let it tack up is if we just put it down when it's completely wet, it will just smush out and not actually do anything sealing wise. Mostly down, a little bit stiff, but seating, that last little bit. Okay, just a little tap. I don't want to get too carried away. There we are, we're seated. Well guys, this one's getting a little long on me. I was hoping to get everything put together and show the lake test, but we're getting a little on the long side. Check back for the next installment where we finish putting the water pump together, get everything bolted back together, get it bolted onto the boat, and throw the thing in the water and see how it works. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate you taking the time to get this far in the video. Hey, if you gotten this far, want to throw me a thumb up, give me a like. That helps the algorithm. And if you've liked what you see, why don't you subscribe and maybe turn on that bell icon, and we'll catch you in the next mess.